All right, we spent a lot of time on the show in recent weeks talking about the moves of the SEC, getting Oklahoma and Texas. We
Right.
also talked about this newfangled alliance between the ACC, Big 10, and Pac 12. And we
Right.
touched on the Big 12 a little bit. That's the last Power Five conference that continues, that looks like they're fading before our very eyes, but we'll put the spotlight on them in our final main segment today. We've seen some reports here that they're looking at expansion. They had some big newfangled meeting, and they haven't called anybody officially yet to make them an offer to join their fading conference. That's at least according to Texas Tech AD Kirby Hocutt. But we do know, I think we can read the tea leaves, that the Big 12 is looking for a way to survive in all this. So, Drink, what should they do, and what team should they be looking at, and do you see a viable way that they can survive and still be a legitimate Power Five conference?
Okay, so let me start off with the tail end of the question. The viability. I'm sorry. Like, no, because the two teams that they would have to grab, right, will be Group of Five teams. And if they don't get the right Group of Five teams, I don't know if this conference is any better than the AAC. So tell me this: what would stop, honestly, the NCAA or whoever makes this decision to say, you know what? Since the Big 12 is out here looking like, I don't know, a Pop Warner League now, how about we drop them and make the AAC a Power 5 conference? I mean, and then so the AAC keeps their teams because they have the better teams, kind of, without Texas and Oklahoma. I think the AAC have the better teams. And then you make them a Power 5 conference, and then so they can make more money and build on the better teams that they already have, instead of selling off their teams to a dying Power 5 conference. Just X them out and replace them with with a conference that might be more competitive. Because I think more people would kind of gravitate towards them, because they do have some teams that make your ears perk. Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, Boise, Michigan. I mean, why I say Michigan? Memphis.
Boise's in the Mountain West, right?
Right. I'm sorry. You're right. Boise.
I get your point.
But Memphis. So
Yeah, Memphis.
they have teams that would get those teams would grab your attention just as much as Texas Tech, Baylor, Kansas State. They really, honestly, if you actually sit back and think about it, you can't with a straight face say those teams wouldn't run a parallel with what the Big 12 would have left. So to me, I think a more viable answer, if the NCAA was really trying to keep, all five Power 5 conferences, ask the Big 12, bring in the AAC, make them a Power 5, and if they don't have enough teams in the conference, then you take the teams from the Big 12, Oklahoma State, for example, and somebody else, and you add them to the AAC, and then Oklahoma State then has become the big dog in that conference, and now then you build upon that. Is how I look at it. I could be off my rocker with that. That's how I look at it. Because going to the beginning part of your question, right? The teams that really make sense to me for the Big 12, one is SMU. Guess what conference they in? One is Houston. Guess what conference they in? So if you was to take both of those teams and replace Oklahoma and Texas with those teams, the AAC would be like, why in the hell? Why take the two teams from us? Just give our whole conference a shot. Give the whole conference a shot. Because the Big 12 is dead. I don't care what nobody tell me. That car is out of gas, and it ain't a Tesla. I'm telling you that right now. It is out of gas. That vehicle is done. The warranty is gone. The warranty was Oklahoma and Texas. That's expired. That warranty is expired. So everything that happens from here on out, you got to pay out of your pocket. And we ain't this vehicle is too old for me to pay out of my pocket. I might as well just go trade it in and get me a new one. Go ahead and trade in the Big 12 for the AAC, and that's how I'm looking at that. The floor is yours, Jay.
I think there is a path, but it's narrow. It's a narrow path for the Big 12 to stick around. And regardless of what they do, I think even if they were able to, carve out something and you get in some of these teams we're talking about, especially a Cincinnati, especially a UCF, and some of those other teams in the state of Texas, maybe you can get Boise. There's a good handful of options that you could bring in and get stronger because they just been getting picked apart lately. But even with anything they could do, you're not going to look at them as being better than the SEC, Big 10 for sure, and even the ACC and Pac-12. I don't think they could do enough and acquire enough teams to be better than any of them, and that breaks my heart too because I'm paying a compliment to the Pac-12, and that hurts. But I do think, listen, if you can somehow, and I think the way I'm going to frame this is a little bit different than you did with. I don't want to axe the Big 12, even though they can't survive just being the Big 12 now. What I think they should do is they should be talking to the AAC and trying to run some sort of merger with them. I think if you combine the Big 12 and the AAC, there is enough there to where you can at least be respectable. And some of this is just coming down to just the mere quantity of these conferences. Like the Big 12 is down to 8 teams. The SEC over here rolling around with what? They about to have 16 or 14 or, but these other, like ACC has 14, the Pac-12 has a bunch. Like they all have at least 12, I would venture to say, the other Power 5 conferences. Right. The Big 12 just they got to have more teams now. And now you got the whole alliance thing. So now they even they're not together, but that just gives you the kind of mental picture of them being bigger. So I think the Big 12 and the AEC should do something together. I think it would be mutually beneficial because here's why. The Big 12 just out here trying to survive. They out here, they looking for lifeboats. Life preservers. Throw them out there to them. What does the AAC want? The AAC should want to be serious about breaking through the barrier to the college football playoff.
They want to broaden their brand, I guess. To say, right?
And that too, but I think part of that, like you want to broaden your brand, get into the college football playoff. Right. And they haven't been able to do it. And it's not for the lack of trying, but one of the things you need is you need better competition. And I'm going to tell you, like a team like Cincinnati, if you can come into the Big 12 and you can have regular, games with Oklahoma State, TCU, and Baylor, those aren't programs we just want to dismiss summarily. Oh, and don't forget, I'm forgetting about Iowa State's in the top 10 right now in the preseason. So that's another team. I know we don't believe it, but somebody does. So we should look at that with some level of seriousness.
That's the Matt Campbell experience. Once he out of the way, they'll go back to being Iowa State. But no, I do agree with you though. I would say I think a merger would also impact their recruiting, and I think the talent would also help them get closer to the playoffs as well.
And I do want to say, just to add on this, for it to matter, it would have to be something legitimate. It would have to be a legitimate merger type thing. I'm not talking about this little newfangled alliance thing that the big, these other 3 conferences have. It can't be that. I don't think that's good enough for them to survive. They need to merge in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how you do it. I don't know if you can do it. But for the Big 12 to be relevant and the AAC to be more relevant and just get stronger and, dare I say, break into the college football playoff, they're gonna need to combine, I think. That's the path. It's narrow. I don't know if you can get it done, but that is the path.